You ready?
Yes, of course.
Okay, perfect. All right. So thank you everybody for coming today. I am really excited to introduce this amazing woman who has been introduced to me by Joe Kronk. So thank you, Joe. So Tomris Bayramova is a program manager at the nonprofit organization Regional Environmental Center for the Caucasus. She is specialized in environmental policy and education and has also has a broad experience in energy regulation. Tomris has a master's degree from Indiana University Bloomington, Master of Public Affairs in Environmental Policy and Natural Resources Management. Before joining the nonprofit, she has worked in the government, academia, private companies, and development organizations. So without further ado, and in lieu of our Women's Month March, Tomris, feel free to take it away.
Thank you very much, Natalie, for introducing me. Honestly, it's a big pleasure. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in this event. And woman empowerment is a big issue around the world, and it's really nice that your company is doing this. I would like to thank Joe, of course, because he invited me to this event. And what I'm going to share today is basically my story, how I became an environmentalist, what I have been doing, and let me know if you have any questions. I will try to make this as entertaining and motivating as possible. And just let me know if you want to learn anything more. Yeah, so I'm starting now. Let's see. So currently I'm a program manager at Regional Environmental Center for Caucasus, but I would like to explain and tell you how I became this manager in the environmental field and how my story started. First of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about my country. I come from Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan is just on the border of Europe and Asia. You can see this is the capital, Baku. It's located on the shore of the Caspian Sea. The population is 10 million, and the territory is not very big, so I put it in square miles, which is 33. The currency is manat. We have a president who is governing the country. So basically the executive system is held by the president, and judicial power is held by the courts, and legislation is written by the parliament. I'm explaining this because in the further slides, I'll explain what kind of work I've been doing and which parts were the most challenging ones. Now talking a little bit about women empowerment. Yeah. So actually, there are some things that we are very, very proud of in my country. First of all, Azerbaijan is the first secular democracy among all Muslim nations, and it was established in 1918. For example, Turkey, which is also considered secular democracy among like one of the first Muslim nations, became a republic only in 1923 officially. And another interesting fact is that Azerbaijan gave full and equal rights to vote for women in 1919, which is 1 year before United States and almost 10 years before United Kingdom. And what we consider about Azerbaijan, it's a very tolerant country where there are people of different nationalities, lots of different minorities like Russians, Ukrainians, Georgians, even Germans, Greeks. For example, me, myself, I have some Georgian and Greek background. For note, Georgia is not the state in the United States, but it's another Caucasian country neighboring with Azerbaijan. And we have different religions, and people represent Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and if you travel across the country, you will see mosques, churches, and synagogues. And the literacy level in the country is also quite high, almost 100%. But according to statistics, yeah, you would see that there is still a bit difference between males and females. But yeah, so it sounds like a perfect country. Why would anyone ever want to leave this country? But let's say when I was quite of a small kid, there was a program funded by US State Department. So they would have different tests, exams, and invite the best students. They would give them a scholarship to spend 1 year in the United States. And I heard about this when I was very, very small, like 6 or 7 years old. And that was the age when I decided that one day this will happen to me too. And I had that dream. It was the biggest dream to go to the United States. And it actually happened. It happened in 2003. And me coming from huge capital with population of around 3.5 million people, I come to Elizabeth, Indiana with population of 200 people. So that was like first big shock for me. But at that time, the United States for me was like huge. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. But I ended up in a very, very small town where I was living in almost like a farmer family. And that was the time actually when I met Joe and his wife, Michelle. Michelle was my teacher at that time at school, and she was teaching computer science to me. It wasn't actually computer science, but rather computer applications. And that was the time when I was very excited about computer science programming. And she was one of those people who was inspiring me to do something serious about that. And that was actually my decision at that time that, yeah, when I go back home to Azerbaijan, I would do something in computer science. So I wasn't actually dreaming of becoming an environmentalist at that point. I mean, I loved nature since I was very small, but like I never thought that that can be my career. So at the time when I came back to Azerbaijan after 1 year in the United States, I was surrounded by, let's say, so many thoughts and opinions of different people. And that's when I really felt all the stereotypes, the opinion of people towards what women should do. So if I was thinking like, well, I live in a country with equal rights, especially after coming just from the United States where it was totally different, I felt that, wow, actually, I can hear things that can sound quite rude, like, well, science is not for women, things like that. Yeah, when I was talking about computer science. Or I would say people would tell me, well, if you don't go to university from the first time, like maybe you shouldn't even try the second time. Maybe you can just get married and have children and, you know, like, or some people would say, well, you haven't been preparing for science. I mean, you may not pass the exam, but you know English. Maybe you can become a teacher or a translator, and lots of other things like that. So on the other hand, I had my family that was supporting me all the time. And they would tell me like, well, if you study hard, at some point you will achieve everything that you are dreaming about. And let's say, well, they let me make my choices. And what happened, well, I did decide to apply for computer science for undergraduate degree, and I failed. I failed my first entry exam, and that was the point, like, well, what shall I do? Should I insist on what I'm dreaming about or not to? And I decided, no, I will. Yeah, and I applied again for computer science. So I took 1 year off studying and preparing, and I got into the university and studied computer science. But that didn't make me happy at all, because at that point, at least, well, it's quite different now, but in 2005, education in public universities in Azerbaijan wasn't that good. And especially things like computer science were not taught that well. And on the other hand, again, I faced, let's say, inequality, because even in my cohort, there were like 8 girls and 31 boys. So you could feel that, well, you are a girl, maybe you shouldn't study all this. Try to concentrate on something different. And again, the level of motivation started to go down, and I decided that I will go and work. So besides studying, I decided to work, and I worked for a mobile company. And what happened, again, like I was working in the call center, and I had a desire to go and work in the IT department. But again, I would see that, well, they would promote mostly men, and you wouldn't see any girl being promoted to the IT department. And that was another disappointing part of this story. So I decided to quit from this job. So I spent 2 years there. I learned many things, but again, it wasn't what would make me happy at that point. And what I decided to do, well, I always had that feeling that there is something more important than computers. And I decided to go back to my memories into my childhood, how much I loved nature, nature conservation. I didn't know much about it. Yeah. So I knew that I needed to learn and work in the field connected to environment, but I didn't know where to start and what to do. So luckily, I met a couple of people who were inspiring me what to do. And at that point, I met a person who had graduated from Indiana University several years ago. And that story a little bit inspired me that I can still become an environmentalist despite the fact that I was a computer science major. So what I decided to do at that point in Azerbaijan, you couldn't change your background. So if you studied, for example, computer science in the undergraduate, your master degree would also have to be computer science or something related to it. So I took a risk and I applied for another scholarship. And I decided to do economics for my master's abroad and gradually become environmental economist. Yeah, so let's say it was a good plan, but I guess the country that I chose wasn't the right one. Yeah, so I went there and the first semester was very hard. And it was actually the time when the world was facing another pandemic. That was the swine flu pandemic. And unfortunately, I caught, at that time, I caught swine flu. So that also spoiled my mood at that time and demotivated me completely. And what I had to do was just going back home. And when I went back home, again, I faced a lot of thoughts that, well, maybe it's enough. Maybe it's really time for you to stop searching and doing all these strange, crazy things and just calm down. Be like everyone. This was something that I would hear all the time. Be like others. And this was something that would always make me mad. And I just didn't want to be like others. I wanted to be like me. And what I always say, there was something, well, it's not something special about me, but I think it's special. It's something that everyone could have. Yeah, like that's what Merriam-Webster dictionary defines. Yeah, the firmness of mind or spirit, unyielding courage in the face of hardship or danger. What kind of word that could be? And that is great. So I think this is something that defines what kind of people we can become. Yeah, if you have that grit and if it's really strong, you will definitely achieve what you are dreaming of. So when I came back for the second time to Azerbaijan, yes, I thought I heard something.
No, you were perfectly fine.
Okay. Yeah. So when I came back to Azerbaijan for the second time, that was the point when I thought that, well, actually, if you dream about something, it can become a reality. And sometimes it happens when you are not even expecting that. And that was the time when I was luckily invited to the biggest energy company in Azerbaijan to work in the environmental department as an economist. Why as an economist? Because actually I did computer science, but in the University of Economics. So I had like dual degree, let's call computer science and economics. And that was, let's say, past defining lottery ticket in my life. And I joined CDM team, which is Clean Development Mechanism. You may have heard at that time, the Kyoto Protocol was something very, very important. And unfortunately, the United States never joined it. But on the other hand, I understand why, because it was a little bit unfair towards bigger countries and developed countries, yeah, where China or India were considered as developing countries, but the United States or other developed countries in Europe would have to basically pay for their carbon emissions, yeah. And when I joined that team, I didn't know that much about all this, and especially this development mechanism and calculations of carbon emission reductions. But in a few months, I was able to progress quite a lot, and I was participating in the project of construction of combined cycle power plant. It was one of the first ones in the country at that point. And it was done also under this mechanism with UNFCCC. And it was a big thing for the country, definitely. We were basically changing the technology in the power plant. And by that, we were reducing the carbon emissions, and another developed country is paying for that. In the end, because every country had its own limits, yeah, like this cap and trade mechanism, something similar to that. So they had a limit how much they could emit, and if that country goes beyond that limit to reduce their emissions, they would just do it in another country, and that would count towards the developed country. And that was the tasks that I was doing at that time. So all these calculations, a little bit boring, but a very interesting thing on the other hand, yeah, because you do it and you see the result. And I guess there was a second, let's say, lottery ticket that I won at the same time. So another promotion. So Azerbaijan Energy Company has its own construction company. So I was actually promoted to become deputy head of environmental and social impacts divisions. And this is when I started actually getting my environmental experience. And I worked around 2 years there. And we were also doing all these international standards, yeah, like ISO 9000 and 14,000 certification for all staff of the company. I was working with Asian Development Bank, United Nations Development Program, World Bank, and so on. But there was, again, another story. I call it also life-changing story, because we were building these towers, yeah, power plant tower, these transmission lines towers. And at that time, we had some German consultants who came, and they said that, well, the older towers were quite old, but there was one really good thing about them. White storks, these beautiful white birds, loved them because they could make nests just on those towers. But after the renovation, that was part of one of the biggest projects in the country, because we were changing all transmission lines across the country. So you can imagine the scale of this project. And then German consultants come and tell you, well, you can change them, but those have to be all special towers that would allow these white storks to have nests there. And I was a little bit shocked at that time, because I never thought that, yeah, this can be a very big issue. And in some countries, projects can be just get frozen because they are not doing some environmental requirements. And I thought, well, this is the moment when I also have to join this, let's say, this team of people who are protecting the biodiversity, because that's the moment when I understood, well, environment, it's not just certifications, it's not just policy issues, it's also these animals, it's national parks, it's protection, it's conservation. And again, I was quite young then. I was just 23, and I was again surrounded by so many questions like, is it the right place? Maybe it's finally really, really too late to change my background. And I thought, I'm not very qualified because I don't have master's degree. I don't have undergraduate degree in environment. Do I actually deserve this kind of job? And all these questions were, let's say I would wake up every morning and ask myself, like, is it the right thing? Should I continue this job? And again, people from different sides would ask me like, well, maybe it's time to have family, to have kids, to calm down. You are already deputy head. With time, you will become head of the division and you will get even more promoted. But, you know, because I already felt that something is wrong. It's not perfect. It's not making me happy. And I, besides everything, I love killer whales. So from time to time, I put their pictures on some of the slides. And that was also one of the questions, like, will I ever do any conservation work, let's say, concerning killer whales? Or do I ever make any project on killer whales, and etc. So I decided to make another change. And the die is cast, and I decided that I will challenge myself again. I will challenge everyone in my family, everyone around me, because everyone was feeling like finally she's happy. She will stay in Azerbaijan, but no. I decided that even if I say that, even everyone told me it's impossible, I said, no, it's possible. Yeah, as the word impossible says, I'm possible. So I was rejected several times, of course, because I didn't have environmental educational background. But in many cases, I would get accepted to the university, but I wouldn't get funding. And at that time, there was a state program on education of Azerbaijani youth abroad in Azerbaijan, yeah. And I called them, I wrote them, but they always told me, like, your first degree is in computer science, you cannot get funded from us. Of course, I would get very disappointed, but on the other hand, there was another US State Department program you may have heard about, that is a Fulbright program. And I decided to apply for it. And I had a list of universities where I could apply. And of course, I put Indiana University on my top because it's a top program in environmental policy, and because I love Indiana, and because I have family and friends in Indiana, and Indiana always felt like home. So luckily, from the very first time that I applied to Fulbright program, I got accepted. I got the full scholarship. And what is funny about it, the state program that rejected me when I asked them if I can ever get scholarship from them decided to fund me, because at that time there was agreement between Fulbright and Azerbaijani government. And exactly that year, environment was privileged program for the government. So they would fund anyone who would pass Fulbright program selection. So they had to pay for me. So that's another funny story. Like, even when I went to the ministry and asked them, like, oh, these are my documents, please give me the ticket and etc. And they were like, no, you are not supposed to go to the United States because your first degree is in computer science. And then they would check again, come back and say, okay, well, we don't know how you did it, but you are going there. So that was another happy coming back to the United States. I was, of course, traveling quite a lot across the United States, but I couldn't miss going back to Indianapolis and Elizabeth, and you can even see a picture. I have a picture of Joe and his wife, Michelle. They are here. And I have a picture with Michelle. And unfortunately, I don't have a picture with both of them, but that's probably the reason to come back to America for the third time. And it was a great period in my life, yeah. And after getting my master's degree in environmental policy, I thought I changed quite a lot, yeah. There were some things that I learned from those 2 years, like my gender, race, religion, or sexual orientation would never define who I can become or what should I do in my life. Another thing that I always stress in my interviews, that time is the only non-renewable resource. And I think there was an interview a couple of years ago on one of the TV channels where I was invited, and I think they had it as a headline when they were inviting me, that time is the only non-renewable resource. And of course, I also understood that if you have decided that you really love environment, it's not because you have read that many books. I mean, I could become an environmentalist even without master's degree. Of course, the diploma gave me strength, and I became, let's see, I started to believe in myself more. But after that, I still saw quite many people without environmental education, but they have reached top positions in big companies or nonprofits and etc. And after that education, after getting my master's degree in the United States, I actually became closer to the bigger dreams that I had. So what I achieved at first, during even the last semester in the United States, I already had several job offers back at home. And I had a job offer from top, let's say, big four, yeah, audit companies, yeah, in environmental consultancy. I had a job offer in the biggest oil company. It's a British company. And I had a job offer from the German Corporation for International Cooperation. That was the time when I really, really wanted to be in the development sector. And I decided to go with this organization. So what I was doing at that time, yeah, I was feeling that I'm in the right place because I could finally do the field work. I was working quite a lot with GIS, Geographic Information Systems. I started my career in environmental education and trainings. Yeah, that was the period when we started doing great series of trainings for policymakers called Integrating Ecosystem Services into Development Planning. And we had quite many events involving different ministries and people from different backgrounds, like academia or from other institutions, from private sector. And we were trying to have these big tables, round table discussions to try to solve the biodiversity management issues in the country. Some pictures, even here you can see, like on this here, or even on this picture, usually it's me and 10, 15 other men. Yeah, that's something that I had to face. It was new for me again, because I just came from the United States, but here, especially when you go to the regions, to the countryside, and you have meetings there, you would see this mistrust sometimes. But at some point, I got used to that. And that was one of the concepts that we introduced. It came from this German organization, so integration of ecosystem services into development planning. So basically, it's about considering ecosystem issues in the planning of some regions, like what kind of issues they should plan, how should they do that. Yeah, I don't want to go into the details, but maybe if we have questions and if this is something interesting, I could go into details of this. And at the same time, I got an offer to teach at Azerbaijan Diplomacy Academy. And this was, wow, a very big step for me, because on one hand, it's probably the most comfortable sector for women in Azerbaijan, because there is this kind of stereotype that women should work as either teachers or doctors. So that was like 100% hit for me, teaching at the university. So besides working for German corporation, I was invited to teach environmental science. And one of the greatest things about this program was that it was mandatory for almost all students in the university. So everyone in the bachelor's degree had to take environmental science. And another benefit was that I could write the program from scratch, and I could put all the topics that I considered important into that topic. And one of those was ecosystem services. That's why I'm stressing again this topic, because this is a concept that most of people do not really know, even in, sometimes even in academia. Yeah, like they may have heard, but they don't know the details of it. But again, I was a little bit bored. And that was the time when my former boss from the energy company was promoted to become chief of staff to the Minister of Energy of the Republic of Azerbaijan. And he invited me to join his team. That was another super challenging thing in my life, because energy regulation at that time, it was totally new in Azerbaijan, and no one knew what is that. So there were just few people in the energy sector who could even understand what's regulation, in the sense of energy regulation. And the country was also facing lots of problems at that time. We just had currency devaluation at that time. As our currency, manat, lost almost 33% of its value. And most of the companies, they are state-owned companies in the energy sector. Yeah, like the gas company, the electricity company, and they all have debts. They live on subsidies. And that's why there was such a big need to have this regulatory agency. And I joined this regulatory agency, and I thought, well, that was my opinion, that any job is a woman's job, but actually there was, not everyone agreed to that. So I was involved in many projects, yeah, but I wanted to stress two of those. So one of them was on the tariff methodology, so that's financial recovery plan. And another one was basically on development of different laws, yeah, in the energy. At that time, I wasn't understanding anything. Yeah, I was a little bit shocked because it was a very challenging job and I was surrounded all by men. Just another example. I love this picture because this is a working group on energy efficiency. So these are representatives of all ministries in the country. And you can see there is just me as a woman representing the regulatory agency, and everyone else are men. And these are more of these technical meetings, again, quite of a similar story. These are the consultants, yeah, so, but among the staff, I would again be the only lady at that time. So unfortunately, sometimes when you work in mostly men-dominated environments, you hear words that, well, you might not do this task well because you are too emotional, because women are emotional, or this might not be very appropriate for you. So I was challenged quite a lot. And I was also young, yeah, at that time. It was like a few years ago, but still most of these men would be in their 40s, 50s, and I would be in my early 30s. But by the end, when I was leaving, yeah, the team looked something like this, yeah, besides the consultants, and there were more and more women. And I'm very grateful for the management that they actually understood that it's important to involve women too. And after the energy sector, there was something that wasn't making me happy, that I am far from environment again. So, okay, I was doing quite a lot on energy efficiency or green energy, but it wasn't something that would make me happy. Yeah, I was still thinking about nature conservation, about environmental issues, and etc. So I decided to change my job again, and I joined again totally new field for myself. I challenged myself again, and I chose to go into employment support project funded by World Bank Group, and it was a project to support different job seekers and help them to get involved in self-employment. But I was responsible for environmental and social monitoring in this project. And that would again be mostly training the staff or doing monitoring of their activities, whether they were acting under the environmental requirements. And again, this was something not totally fulfilling the dreams and desires that I had inside. So I understood that it's not my story, and I had to take another hard choice. Sometimes I was again waking up very unhappy and thinking that I'm in the wrong place. On the other hand, I would think, well, Lots of people have lost their jobs during pandemic, and I have already changed my job once since the pandemic started. Like, maybe I should stop at some point, calm down, and work with what I have. But on the other hand, I knew that I had a higher potential. So I think I did a right choice, and I am doing something completely new for myself right now. I decided to join non-governmental organization. This is something that I have never done before. And I was offered to become a program manager at this non-governmental organization called Regional Environmental Center for Caucasus. So it's an NGO funded by European Union, and it's almost like more than 20 years old. And they work for 3 countries, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Armenia. Maybe some of you have heard that in September we had conflict with Armenia. I mean, we have a long history of conflict with neighboring country. And there was another clash for almost 44 days, and with big losses of human lives. And of course, the nature was also impacted. And I would be happy that maybe this organization or this project can bring a little bit more peace to the region. Another thing that makes me happy is there are no gender issues in this organization, because team consists of women only. And we do basically, for right now, we're building a new atlas. So it will be like forest maps for the whole region, for 3 countries. And on the other hand, we will be doing a lot of capacity building for in the environmental sector for Azerbaijan to meet its requirements under the Paris Agreement. And well, this is my story. I hope it wasn't too boring. I think it took a little bit longer, more time than I was expecting. But yeah, thank you very much for your attention. And feel free, if you have any questions, just ask. And maybe you have stopped believing in unicorns, but they never stopped believing in you. So I hope you are all having your dreams, and one day they will become true, as mine.
Thank you, Tomris. That was very, very inspiring. I want to open up to questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat box, or just say out loud what your question is, and we'll just leave the rest of the time for that. Thank you, Julie. She said, awesome, you are very inspirational to us women. I would agree with that. Tomris, I do have a question, because I love what you said about grit. I think, it's incredible, and knowing internally that you are meant for more and striving for more versus, instead of listening to what everybody else thinks you should do. What kind of, well, I have 2 questions there. What kind of kept you going? What kept the fire going when you felt that you were, having to give up again and again and again on certain aspects? But what are the things that maybe tactics that you did to keep yourself going and striving for that next big thing?
Well, I think dreams are even bigger than us, because if I give up, the dream is not only about me, because if I wanted to be an environmentalist, it's not something egocentric. It's not about me. If I want to become an environmentalist, I want to help others, or I want to help nature. And most of these kind of let's call it specializations, especially in development sector. Yeah, they are about caring, caring about other people. So if I give up on my dream, I'm actually giving up on other people or on animals or on nature, on trees. So I think when you have this kind of dream, you should think about others. It's not about only you.
Yeah. It's almost like doing others. Yes, if you don't step up into your full potential, you may be doing others a disservice by not doing so. And believing in that, it sounds like, is kind of that drive. Yeah, I love that message. The other thing I had a question about is when you, I loved the picture of you at the table with all the men, and you know, a lot of older white men as well. And I know the women in this group, if you've ever been in that situation as well, it can be a little bit intimidating. What and I love the story of how it shifted when you left. There were more women involved. What contributed to your success there? Was it speaking out at the table, speaking up more? What contributed to your success?
Exactly, all that, because we have a bit different culture. It's not only about men and women, but I was very, very lucky to have a great management. Our manager, our chairman, he before he became the chairman of the Energy Regulatory Agency, he was director at Siemens Azerbaijan. So he worked with Germans for almost 20 years. And he was a person who was open to hear others. And when there was a door of opportunity to talk, to speak out, to raise questions, I was using that opportunity. And people would look at me a little bit shocked, like he would ask, like, does anyone have questions? And I would be the only one who raises the hand, but that becomes an example for the others. And that's why I actually got the coordination of those projects, one funded by Asian Development Bank, the other one by European Development Bank. And because I had a very good connection with all these foreign consultants and development sector representatives from the banks, they actually, I don't want to say the bad word, but they used me also as this model. Like if Tomris speaks, the others can speak too. And they would always emphasize, like, wow, you have Tomris, and she's kind of fulfilling this gender component that we are lacking in the program. And I helped the other women also to get involved. I would work with them separately. I would always ask them, well, you have a great question, you should ask, or you have a great idea, you need to share. And this is how it works. And this is the only way. Those who have a voice should help the others to raise their voices too. And besides that, because I'm also part of this American Alumni Association, so students who have studied in the United States, from time to time I have these different talks on environmental topics or gender topics, and like I go to TV, or sometimes I give interviews for the newspapers. But I always read the comments below, not to see like how people are talking about, but what I like when they say, well, this is great that women can talk like that, or they have such interesting opinions. And the more people like me, like more women like me speak out, more of the others will join this too. That's how I think.
I just love that. I think, just reaching out and helping others as well, especially if you do have a voice. I think that's extremely powerful. One last question I will ask, and I'll give it up to everyone else. But we just are starting we're restarting a women's leadership development group, and it's called Empower We. What advice would you give us as an organization to really focus on in terms of empowering our women more? What opportunities or how could we go about that in a successful way based on your experience?
It's hard to say without knowing the organization quite well, yeah. But I don't know what's the distribution. On one hand, like how many women you have in your staff, how many men. But again, like sometimes people say, well, the meetings take too much time. We don't need that much of discussion, but I used to think like that. It's my bad. I really didn't like all these roundtable discussions but this works so well. Yeah, people need to do that. People need to meet a lot. Yeah, and I think it's good to let every woman in the company to have her own presentation time. Yeah, I am sure every lady in your company will also have very interesting presentation or ideas to share with the others. And you just need to allow everyone to speak. I think this is one of the best ways. And another thing, of course, you may choose different topics that would be interesting for both men and women. But again, let women to be the presenters.
Thank you for that. I'm looking at the chat box, and there is one question here. GRIT stands for what again?
Yeah, I just shared it on the screen.
Okay.
If you can see. Yeah, guts, resilience, initiative, and tenacity.
Great.
Yeah.
We'll snapshot that and I'll take that. We'll pass that one around. Are there any other questions for Tomris?
Hi, Tomris. This is Olivia.
Yeah.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Thank you for a wonderful, inspiring story. I think ECC is on the right track to help women rise up and enter into the leadership roles and help women grow and be more confident. I'm a
Oh, I lost your.
in a management role, and I think.
Sorry, could you please repeat, because I lost you.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to ask you if you have any advice on how we as an organization can help young female professionals keep pursuing their full potential and raise their voice. I don't believe women belongs to administrative role. Like it's not. Yeah, like just like you, a lot of young female professionals have our very strong interest or pursuit. We understand we have potentials. What would you give young professionals, like especially early in young female professionals in their 20s, to keep pursuing their dream?
Well, I worked quite a lot with students. Yeah, like every year I would have around 200 students in environmental education course, and more than half would be women. And what I would always tell them is to hurry up and try to find job, because I also found my job, my first job, when I was studying at the university. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how is it with ECC? Do you have quite many internship opportunities or not? But I think if it's possible to have these different internship positions, yeah, especially in this technical departments or environmental departments, engineering departments, trying to involve women in those departments. Yeah, because I have had that feeling when I was working for a mobile company that I wouldn't be hired to IT department. I was offered only to grow into the in this customer relations departments, or best case would be like human resources, like something like very, very administrative. But if it's a must, to involve women interns into these engineering positions, I think internships in engineering departments, I think that could work a little bit better. But of course, on the other hand, I also don't want, I discuss this with all of my managements from time to time. So they also feel this pressure, because gender is a big issue. And in development sector, it's also quite big. Like in every project, in every program, you would see but you have to have this indicator, on gender issues. So you need to involve this many women into this many projects. And of course, it shouldn't be like a big pressure. It's actually not, because women are exactly the same as men. They can do the same kind of job. And maybe the problem is more psychological or in the society that, women cannot do engineering that well, or because they don't have enough time for that, because they have some house routine, some other stuff. But it's not a must, but it is something that can be done, by women. I think good internship opportunities for women could raise their interest joining these more technical departments.
Thank you, Tomris. Did you have experience help hiring female interns or entry-level positions and help them, mentor them? If you could share some experience, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, exactly. That's what I did when I worked for German corporation. That was my idea. And yes, because, and it was before I started working for the university, but I always wanted to see some students in our team, even for short term. And we invited 2 interns from the same university where I actually started to work later. What happened, I call them my mentees, and one of them, she went to study in Hungary after that for a master's degree in environmental science, and she had a background in international relations. And now she's doing PhD in Germany in water management. And I think that was a person who needed just a little bit inspiration, like I did. I needed it when I was also 22, 23. I met the right people. So it's very important management of your company or heads of departments to find some of the really talented students, or maybe go to universities, have short talks to those people, and there will always be a couple of those that you will see from far away. You know exactly that that person just needs a little bit of inspiration or motivation, and they will do their best. And it always works like that. And now even now I continue working with my students. They text me from time to time. They get advice and they get into their master degrees. But because once I promised them that I am there for them to inspire when they are feeling down. And this is very important for everyone, to know that they can ask someone when they are lost. This is a big issue for young ladies nowadays too, everywhere, not only in Azerbaijan, but in any country.
Thank you, Tomris.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joe. I can see your comment. Say hi to Michelle. Oh, I see your question now. What do I miss the most about Indiana? people. Yeah, people. And my friends and my family, my American family.
Well, Tomris, we so appreciate you just giving us, telling us about your journey. It was incredibly inspiring. We're right at the hour, so we'll we'll let you get back to your evening. Enjoy. But thank you so much for just shining light on what we as women can do, and shining a bright light for us. So thanks again, and we'll be in touch. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for this opportunity once again. I hope I didn't took too much of your time. It wasn't maybe that much useful, like in the sense of environmental news or energy regulation innovation that I could share with you. But I decided, like, you probably can read lots of stuff on technical or engineering things, but the stories are making all of us special. So I think those stories are more motivating and inspiring than 1 hour of lecturing on something, on recycling or waste management. Thank you.
I could not agree more. Could not agree more. So thank you so much. No, your story was powerful and impactful for, I know I can at least speak for myself, but I know I'm getting sentiments from others on the call as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you.